Welcome to my channel. Today's story is Mafia Heist, the perfect crime. Our story begins in 2011 when a man named Carmine Galante moved to the United States from Italy, and for the first few years, he lived a normal life. He got married and everything seemed to be going well. But behind his seemingly happy marriage, there was an evil plot brewing. You see, Carmelo had married his cousin once removed Giuseppina, and she had not revealed to him that she was already married to her cousin Vincenzo at the time of their wedding, and this was not uncommon in their culture. However, things soon began to unravel for Carmelo when he started seeing strange messages on his wife, phone from a man named Nino. After confronting his wife, she admitted that the man in the messages was her husband Vincenzo, who was living in Italy. In fact, they had been married for 14 years and had a son together. But she had kept all of this a secret from Carmelo because she did not want to hurt him by revealing the truth. Although it sounds bizarre to us, bigamy is actually not illegal in most states in America. However, it is illegal to hide the fact that you are already married while getting hitched. And so Carmelo decided to take legal action against his wife. He filed for an annulment on the grounds that he had entered the marriage under false pretenses. And after a year and a half of fighting it out in court, the judge finally ruled in his favor. But little did Carmelo know that this was just the beginning of his troubles. You see, Giuseppe had taken the news of the annulment very hard. She had always loved Vincenzo and could not bear the thought of being separated from him again. And so, she hatched a plan with her lover to make Carmelo pay. They wanted to ruin him financially and emotionally, and they knew exactly how to do it. You see, Carmelo worked for a moving company owned by his friend's family, and the Bonanno crime family was one of the most powerful families in the mafia. And so Vincenzo and Giuseppe knew that if they could somehow implicate Carmelo in a crime, he would be finished. And they did not have to wait long before they got their chance. One day, Carmelo was transporting a shipment of valuable antiques for the Bonanno family when he was stopped by the police for a routine check. They found some drugs in his truck, and even though he swore that they were not his, they refused to believe him and arrested him. Suddenly, Carmelo's life was turned upside down. His reputation was ruined, and he was too afraid to go to the police for help. Even his own father disowned him, believing that the charges against him were true. And as it turned out, Vincenzo and Giuseppe were behind it all. They had set him up to take the fall for them. Now, despite being innocent, Carmelo was sentenced to 7 years in prison. But after serving only 2 years of his sentence, he was released on parole. And he was determined to clear his name and get revenge on those who had wronged him. With the help of his lawyer, Carmelo discovered that the drugs were actually planted in his truck by Vincenzo and Giuseppe, and he went to the Bonanno family to tell them what had happened. To his surprise, they believed him and promised to help him bring down Vincenzo and Giuseppe. However, it was not easy. Vincenzo and Giuseppe were too powerful. They had too many connections in the police force and the courts. And so Carmelo had to be patient and wait for his chance to strike back. And his opportunity came sooner than he expected. You see, Vincenzo and Giuseppe were so confident in their power that they started flaunting their wealth and power in public. They threw lavish parties, bought expensive cars and jewelry, and made no secret of their ill-gotten gains. And this made them enemies not only with the police, but also with other members of the mafia who wanted a piece of the action. Soon, Vincenzo and Giuseppe found themselves in the middle of a gang war. And as the violence escalated, they realized that they needed to escape. They fled to Italy and changed their names and identities. And for a while, it seemed like they had gotten away with it. But Carmelo was not giving up. He continued to work with the Bonanno family and the police to build a case against Vincenzo and Giuseppe, and eventually they were able to track them down. An Italian newspaper published a story about a mysterious couple who had been living in Italy under false identities and had also been involved in a number of crimes. And this gave Carmelo the lead he needed. He contacted the Italian authorities and told them everything he knew about Vincenzo and Giuseppe. And this time, there was no escaping justice. The Italian police arrested Vincenzo and Giuseppe and extradited them back to the United States, where they faced a host of charges, including drug trafficking, money laundering, and racketeering. In the end, both Vincenzo and Giuseppe were sentenced to 10 years in prison, and Carmelo's life was finally back on track. He had cleared his name, and he had brought down two of the most powerful mobsters in the country. It was truly the perfect crime. But this story has a twist that will leave you speechless. You see, while Vincenzo and Giuseppe were in prison, they became the targets of the Russian mafia. These guys had been watching Vincenzo and Giuseppe for a while now and had been waiting for their chance to strike. And now that they were locked up, it was easy prey. The Russian mafia offered the mobsters a choice. Either pay us $1 million or we'll kill you. But Vincenzo and Giuseppe refused to give in. They were too proud to beg for mercy. And so the Russian mafia made good on their threat and killed the couple in prison. Now, this is where the story gets really interesting. It turns out that the Bonanno family had also received the offer from the Russian mafia and had paid the ransom. But instead of saving Vincenzo and Giuseppe, they had secretly decided to let the Russian mafia kill them. You see, the Bonanno family had had enough of Vincenzo and Giuseppe's shenanigans. They were tired of their constant double-crossing and manipulation and were more than happy to get rid of them. And so they had tipped off the Italian and American authorities about the Russian mafia's plans, hoping that they would arrest the mobsters before they could carry out their threat. But the authorities were unable to act in time, and so the Bonanno family had to take matters into their own hands. They sent a message to the Russian mafia challenging them to kill them if they dared. And the Russian mafia took up the challenge. They ambushed the Bonanno family and killed several of their top members, including the boss. This caused a major rift in the mafia, as the families were now left without a leader and the country was thrown into chaos. The war between the families intensified and the streets ran red with blood. And in the end, it was the police who emerged victorious. They arrested the remaining members of the Bonanno family and the Russian mafia, bringing an end to their reign of terror. The police also uncovered a massive conspiracy that had been brewing within the mafia for years. It turns out that Vincenzo and Giuseppe had been working with the police all along. They had provided the police with valuable information about the mafia in exchange for protection and money. This had led to the downfall of several high-ranking members of the mafia and had also saved many innocent lives. So in the end, it was the betrayal of Vincenzo and Giuseppe that had led to the downfall of the entire mafia. And the crazy thing is that nobody had seen it coming. They had been living in plain sight all this time, and nobody had suspected a thing. As for Carmelo, he was hailed as a hero for his role in bringing down the mafia. He had risked his life to expose the mobsters and had ultimately helped to make the streets safer for everyone, but he remained humble and simply thanked the Bonanno family and the police for their help. So what can we learn from this story? Well, never trust a Sicilian until you've heard their offer twice, and always keep your friends close and your cousins closer. Until next time, stay safe and don't forget to subscribe for more exciting stories.